Hello and welcome. I recently made a trip to Disneyland Paris. This was a long anticipated trip as a Disney park fan. In my last video, I brought you on our journey traveling from our house to Paris, passing through the airport, and I brought you with me on our very first day to explore Disneyland Park. In this video, I'm going to bring you along with me on day 2 of this unforgettable trip where we head into Walt Disney Studios Park. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on more about my time at Disneyland Paris and my time in Paris itself. Disneyland Paris is comprised of 2 parks. You have Disneyland Park itself and Walt Disney Studios right across the courtyard. There is also Disney Village, which sits right outside the gates and is a nice place to shop and has a variety of restaurants. The major theme of Walt Disney Studios is show business and Walt Disney Entertainment. The front lot looks very much like a 1920s studio backdrop. The Earful Tower, as they call it, is the main focal point as you walk in. Get it? Earful. You can also see Sorcerer and Mickey in the middle, greeting you when you walk in. Before we left for this trip, the first thing that we made sure to do was to download the Disneyland Paris app. This is where we were able to access a map of the park to help find our way around, find attractions, look at wait times, and find places to eat. This is also where we were able to make restaurant reservations as well. One thing we also looked into before we arrived is if we should purchase Disney Premier Access. Essentially, Disney Premier Access is the Disneyland Paris version of the Genie Plus system that you see in other parks. You can purchase Ultimate Access ahead of your park visit or when you're in the park for 90 euros per person per day. And this allows you access to the Premier Access line on each ride once per day, skipping the standard standby line. For 5 euros per person, you can also purchase One Access when you're in the park. Here you can choose one attraction that you want to join the Premier Access line for during a provided time slot. We were actually undecided about purchasing Premier Access initially, wanting to experience the parks first to determine if it would be worth it. When we were there, we experienced moderate crowds, and there were long lines for some attractions throughout the day. However, they were not long enough to discourage us from waiting in the standby line, maybe an hour or less for the most part. In the end, we decided to not purchase Premier Access. The main reason for this is that we had 4 days of access to both parks, giving us plenty of opportunity to catch attractions that we may have missed or may have had a really long line when we visited them the first time. Because we were staying at the Disneyland Paris Hotel, we had access to enter the park 1 hour before the official opening, giving us an opportunity to beat the crowds and experience these attractions. If you only have 1 day in either park and you want to make sure you experience a particular attraction, I would say it's definitely worth it. One caveat here is that not all of the rides will have Premier Access lines, and the prices may vary depending on when you visit the parks. Also, many of the rides are equipped with single rider lines. These often tend to provide a shorter line to an attraction to fill any empty spots on a ride vehicle to maximize capacity. They won't always be faster, but it is an option if you are okay being split up from your travel partner. When we first entered Walt Disney Studios, we walked around a bit to scope out the rides and to take a look around. What first struck me is that even though the park is relatively small, especially compared to the other parks, they were able to provide a really immersive experience. There were pockets of themed areas that they seemed to fit really well into a small space. They really did a superb job with the theming and providing an immersive experience, just as expected from Disney. We first made our way over to Toy Story Playland. Here, we were greeted with Buzz Lightyear and themed decorations from the Toy Story movies. When we arrived, the first order of business was to grab a bite to eat. We started with coffee and churros at the Playhouse Cafe. The churros here are a lot different than the US parks. They were so soft and delicious. They lacked the crunch and the cinnamon of the traditional churro, but they were a nice sweet treat dipped in Nutella and sprinkled with a little bit of sugar. I paired this with an Americano. Next was to take in some rides. Our first ride was Cars Road Trip, a nice, easy one to help our food settle. This ride took you on a tram through Radiator Springs and provides you with a fun interactive experience with some pyrotechnics, and the tram does a little bit of shaking and sprays water down the side. As you continue, you see the Parisian flair that they have added to the theming on the ride. Next up was RC Racer, our first thrill ride of the day. This one rocked you back and forth, not quite sending you upside down, but it did feel like it a little bit at times. Next up was Slinky Zigzag Spin. This one had the theming of Slinky Dog's Dash at Hollywood Studios at Disney World, but this one was not a roller coaster. The ride theming was really cute, and even though it was designed to be a kid-friendly attraction, it actually moved a lot faster than I was expecting. There were two other nearby attractions, Toy Soldier's Parachute Drop and Cars 4 Wheels Rally. These two we did not end up riding. We moved on to other areas of the park to catch busier attractions and didn't end up making our way back. We made our way around the production courtyard that sits between the Tower of Terror and Toon Studio. This is where there were a lot of food carts and stands with a variety of different merchandise. I did notice that food carts were abundant in the park. We walked past the courtyard and made our way past many of the Marvel attractions to ride the park's Avengers ride, Avengers Assemble Flight Force. Here we entered another very interactive and immersive queue. We were greeted with a pre-show, which made the wait feel like it just flew by.
Subsystems recalibrated.
This was another thrill ride, catapulting you at the start, and it was a dark, high-speed roller coaster. It was very similar to the ride experience of Hyperspace Mountain, with a launch at the beginning, fast-paced, and a few inversions included in the ride. Even if you don't like thrill rides, this is worth it, even if you just want to experience the queue. After the ride, we wound around the corner and found something else to eat. Tucked away at the far area of the park was a diner and a few food trucks. I decided to get a loaded hot dog at the Fantastic Food Truck. This was a standard hot dog piled with smoked chipotle sauce, crushed Doritos, pickled red onion, and bacon. This was actually really good, but pretty messy. I also tried the Liberty Lollipop, which was a vanilla ganache lollipop. Inside was a vanilla cookie, and it was coated with white chocolate. This was actually really good, and it was super fluffy, so it cut down on the sweetness a little bit. Choosing another slower moving ride after our snack, we walked around the corner to Spider-Man Web Adventure. This one had another really interactive queue, and I really like this ride. It's a 3D ride and really interactive, and you're throwing webs at different spiders throughout the ride. And you receive a score for how effective you are at catching these spiders, which produces a little healthy competition. Next up, we were ready for Twilight Zone's Tower of Terror. Doing some preliminary research before our trip, this ride was reported to be the most intense out of all of the parks. Even though I love a good intense ride, I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit nervous. The theming of the queue in the ride was very similar to the iteration at Hollywood Studios at Disney World, and it was indeed more intense, dropping and flying up more frequently and unexpectedly. It was thrilling and gave me the adrenaline boost I needed, making another new favorite for me. After this, we did some more exploring, making our way to Toon Studio and Crush's Coaster. The queue brings you out into another fun, immersive loading area. This ride takes you into a turtle shell, spins, turns, moves backwards as you make your way through the ocean, interacting with the characters from Finding Nemo. I loved the interactive nature of this ride, and it was quite a unique attraction. However, we made this the last thrill ride we experienced, at least for a while. It was time to do a little more exploring in the park. We rode the flying carpets of Agrabah, which was the Walt Disney Studios version of Dumbo or Astro Orbiter, and this one was really fun. We made our way back over to Production Courtyard, and we went to another food truck to get another bite to eat. I chose Studio Catering Company for some pulled pork bites. These were pretty good. They were essentially pulled pork served up in the form of a chicken nugget. I followed that up with a dense Mickey chocolate chip cookie. My husband and I shared these, so it was perfect for just a nice light snack. After this, we made our way over to the other side of the park, across from Toy Story Playland. This was where another themed area lied, which was very Parisian-inspired with French-inspired restaurants, and this is where you can find Ratatouille as the central themed character. They also had a sit-down restaurant here, Bistro Chez Remy and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. One thing my husband and I like to do is sample as much food as possible in the parks and kind of snack our way through the day. However, we do like to choose one or two to experience the atmosphere. And when we were planning our time at Disneyland, one thing we did consider is booking a restaurant for our time at the park. On a whim, we tried to find a seat at lunch at Bistro Chez Remy when we got there, but unfortunately they were full and were reservation only. While we were here, we decided to ride Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, and this is such a fun ride and yet another immersive queue experience and a really unique ride. As the day wound down, we wanted to wrap up our day with our final meal, and this time we went to Stark Factory. This restaurant is cafeteria style, serving pizza, pasta, and salads. I grabbed some pasta with meat sauce and pasta with Alfredo sauce, as well as a flatbread with anchovies to share. The food was really tasty, and it was also really satisfying after a long, tiring day of walking. After an exciting day at Walt Disney Studios, we decided to call it a day at that park. We had a great experience, and we experienced the attractions that we wanted. As we left the main gate, we walked across the courtyard and headed to Disney Village. This is an area right outside the park gates with shopping and restaurants. You do not need a park ticket to enter this area, and this is near where the train station is if you are taking the train into Paris. We ended our night walking to the end of Disney Village, crossing over Lake Disney. This is such a beautiful and peaceful area where you can get a glimpse of the Hotel New York from across the lake. As the sun started to set after a long, exciting, but tiring day at Walt Disney Studios, we made our way back to the hotel for the night. This ended up being the only day we visited Walt Disney Studios, but every minute was exciting and we experienced so much in that short amount of time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.